Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for your Wednesday night Leeds United news show. And I want to talk all about today this interview that's been done by Leeds United's co-owner Jed York. But I think, look, he talks for about a few minutes about Leeds United and the progression of Leeds United, where he hopes Leeds United get to, etc. But I thought I wanted to expand on that a bit on the show because I feel like I've wanted to do this video for a while and there hasn't really been an opportunity. And I feel like today is that opportunity to talk about sort of the sort of end goal for Leeds United and what is the situation for the 49ers going forward. We know there's a lot of things going on in the background at this moment with Leeds United. We know the stadium's been going on. We know we're expecting summer developments in the summer in the transfer market. So we'll talk all about that today. It's going to be a sort of full a full show today with lots of different talking points because he did go into a number of talking points and I think they naturally suit a news show. Anyway, but before we get into all of that, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff does massively help the channel. It really does. The sport yesterday was fantastic and it has been really decent, to be honest. And if he could continue to help me with that, it would be fantastic. Obviously, I am naturally one of the small Leeds content creators, so any bit of sport you guys can show me is just massively helpful for me. It really does help me going forward. And it helps other people see this sort of content as well, and if they might enjoy it too. Also, as well, I'm nearly at 1,900 subscribers. I'm 6 off. So if we could hit that today, that would be absolutely fantastic. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic as well. Anyway, let's start with sort of Jed York and what he's been talking about. I want to start with Elland Road. He basically started the interview with the usual stuff about the fact there's nothing like Elland Road and there's no ground like it. I must admit, I do find a lot of these like puff pieces from the 49ers. I think they know what they're saying, don't they? I think fundamentally they know what Leeds United fans want them to say. They know what Leeds United fans want to hear. And I think they do play into that a bit. Like we're saying stuff like there's nothing like it, Elland Road. I agree with that. But that is obviously playing into the Leeds United playbook. Like he was almost ready to go with that. One thing I do want to say about this interview as well, which I think was quite interesting, which I didn't actually expect, is that they were obviously interviewing, it was a TalkSport interview, and they were interviewing Jed York all about sort of the NFL and the 49ers. Obviously, if anyone doesn't know, the Super Bowl was recently held at the Levi Stadium, which is obviously the San Francisco 49ers stadium. So the conversation was all about that. And it was all about the World Cup being at the San Francisco 49ers Levi Stadium as well and all that sort of stuff and what that could bring to it. But actually, Jed York was very interested about talking about Leeds United and a bit about Rangers as well, which I found fascinating because he obviously wanted to use the opportunity to speak to Leeds United fans. And look, he said a few sort of sound bites that we'll get into. But as I said, he said, there's nothing like Elland Road. And he also says when they plan to extend Elland Road, it's all about keeping what Elland Road is about, keeping the essence of Elland Road, but obviously just modernising it and expanding it as well, making it bigger and obviously much more of Premier League ground. And I must admit with this, and he also then went on to say sort of Leeds back on the map and sort of where they belong. But I must admit, what I always think about this is, because I've seen a few people sort of being backwards and forwards with the ground if they want it. I've seen some people saying they don't want to expand it, etc. I am really impressed with the ground, actually. I think it's a huge positive for Leeds United at this moment in time. And I think when we talk about the long-term vision of this football club, I always look at the sort of top teams at this moment in the country. They've all got brand new stadiums or expanded stadiums. Look at Liverpool, they've expanded Anfield. Look at Emirates, brand new stadium with Arsenal as well. Look at Man City, they're obviously in a stadium that was made for, was it the Paralympics or the whatchamacallit, not the Paralympics, but it was obviously made and obviously now they're stadium, but it's a brand new stadium, all brand new facilities there. And I do think if you want to compete for silverware, but also want to compete on the biggest stages, it's got to be matched up with the fantastic stadium. And I think Leeds United upgrading the stadium, I love Elland Road, I love the sort of the rugged feel about Elland Road, but it does need modernising. For me, there's no doubt about it. And I also think, which I think's a real talking point, I hear, as I said, a few people saying maybe they don't want it expanded and maybe it'll ruin the atmosphere. I think we should expand it because part of what we're trying to do as a football club is make the fan base bigger, getting more out to people, push Leeds United as much as possible. And therefore, we need more people to go into the football games. That's what we need. We need as many people being able to go to Elland Road as possible. And at this moment in time, the season waiting list is off the scale. The queue for members is off the scale. You try get a ticket as a member at this moment in time. It is so difficult to get a ticket. So we should be making it easier. And one of the ways to obviously make it easier is to have more seats in the ground. And we should give people as much opportunity as possible to get to Elland Road. But as Gibson White rightly says, he says, as long as we don't go for a soulless ball. And I think this is important because this is actually in my notes as well, Gibson White. So we're clearly on the same page there. I do feel that as well. I quite like the fact, I must admit, that we're not moving stadiums. As much as I've just said all the benefits of sort of going to a bigger stadium, and that's without sort of talking about the commercial value that it'll bring us, without saying that we'll be able to host better events there, etc. We know the commercial side of it is there, but I think for a fan base it's better. However, like Gibson White says, I don't want to move stadium, and I'm glad we're not doing that. I think that's really important. I quite like what Liverpool have done with Anfield, actually, in terms of just making it bigger. I don't really like what Arsenal have done. I don't really like what Spurs have done. And if you listen to, say, West Ham fans, they'll tell you all about what's happened with their club, and you don't want that. So I quite like the fact we're sticking with Elland Road. And actually, we've got a really good opportunity with Elland Road. Actually, there's loads of space around it. Anyone that goes to Elland Road, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, you can see there's so much space for expansion at Elland Road. And it should have happened years ago, in truth. But now it looks like we've got owners that obviously are naturally pushing this, which is what the 49ers were always going to do. They were always going to make the stadia top notch. That is something that they prioritised when they took over the San Francisco when the 49ers are in charge of the 49ers, obviously their ground. They've made Levi Stadium just a fantastic sporting arena, and I think they obviously want to replicate that with Leeds United. But I'm glad they see the importance of Elland Road, because as I said, as Gibson White said, truthfully, I can't think of anything worse than a modern sort of soulless bowl. I think at one point in time, there was a massive push for these bowls. Like, I think you saw the Allianz Arena, everyone went, wow, that looks fantastic. But actually, I've never liked them. I get the modernisation of them, but I've never liked them. And actually, the sort of rugged spirit of Elland Road, I much prefer. And I am really glad that we're not moving stadia. I think that's massively important for Leeds United. And I think, obviously, there's so much happened at Elland Road over the years. You don't want to remove the history of moving to a different football club, a different ground. I do think that's massively important. But as I said, for me, I've never been against the stadium development. It should have happened years ago. I think it's vitally important for the commercial sense of the club, being able to obviously bring more money in so we can spend more because of FFP, etc. That's all true. But also, I do think it would make a better environment for fans. And as I said, as an expanding football club, we need to have a stadium that matches what we're trying to do. So I think that's vitally important. Anyway, then he went on to talk about sort of is staying up imperative. And again, for me, it's this kind of going down the line of the PR line. And he basically said it's not even about the financial boost. It's about a prominent team like Leeds United being where they belong. And again, a few more punchlines from Jed there. I disagree with this, and I don't think that actually Jed believes what he's saying here. Maybe he does, but I don't think he does. Look, the fact of the matter is, for Leeds United, it's absolutely imperative for our future that we stay in the Premier League this season. It's as important as anything about getting promoted. The main benefit of staying in this division this year is the long-term progression that you should be able to see with a football club if they do stay up. And there's obviously conversations about the investment going forward and what it's going to be like in the summer, which he does talk about, which we will get onto. But this nonsense about that it's just about staying up for the football club. Yes, obviously Leeds United should be playing the Premier League. Of course we should. We're definitely one of the biggest 20 clubs in the country. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, come on. I mean, the truth of the matter is here that we need to be in the Premier League because we need the money that comes with it to start with. Because we're on a project at this moment in time. We've got to build that project, and we need the cash flow that comes in from staying in the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. And actually, like we've always said on this channel, I do think if Leeds United stay up one time, and if we do stay up this time, I think with the 49ers investment and what we're expecting the investment to be, this is something that Leeds United can go on and build on then. I do think that. And then if you listen to sort of what Jed said after in the summer about there being more investment coming, I think this is a line that's been told by the 49ers continuously throughout their sort of time at the football club. And I do expect investment in the summer. I think you're expecting another sort of 100 to 120 million spend in the summer. And I think you look at the teams that are coming up, like we've always talked about, I do think if Leeds United stay up this season, I don't see them going down next season. And then, of course, if you spend wisely that summer, you're definitely not going down third season. And I think you're then probably close to Europe than you are sort of being in in the sort of bottom three conversation in the relegation battle. So look, as I said, I think staying up is vital for this Leeds United team. Obviously, it goes without saying. But I do think Leeds United on the right track with it. And obviously mentioned that the huge 3 points against Nottingham Forest in his interview, and that was vital, as we know, and we talked about after the game. But when we're looking at a football club, and I've said this a few times, I think as fans, we and I've said this, as I said a few times before, I think people accept what can happen with football clubs. I think people get that. I think people get the fact that it sometimes takes time to build up, and you're not always going to have success after success after success. But what I always say with fans is we need something to buy into. I've always felt that, and I think at this moment in time, and I did feel for a few years ago, I don't think we had something to buy into. Like, I look at sort of before Bielsa came in, it was Gary Monk, etc. I couldn't see the long-term project with it. I never saw what we were trying to go for. And I think since the 49ers have come in, I do see what they're trying to do. And I do see the vision of where they expect Leeds United to be. And I do believe as well, if we get to a position anywhere near to where we were under, of course, Marcelo Bielsa, and we finished 9th, I do think that this Leeds United club will progress from then onwards. I do think that. I don't think we'll make the same mistakes before. I think there will be proper investment that there wasn't at that period of time because of the powerhouse that the 49ers are. And also, I do expect that the 49ers see what the potential could be. Like, if you look around the Football League at this moment, for example, look at Chelsea. A few years ago, Chelsea was sold to Todd Boehly for £4 billion. Since that point, I believe he's put £1.5 billion more in. So he's invested, him and his investment group, and obviously I think he's backed by the Saudis, etc. They have invested £5.5 billion into Chelsea. And the reason they've done that is because they're Americans, and the business investors who are trying to make money out of the football club. That is the whole philosophy. That's what they're trying to do. And look at Chelsea. If they think that Chelsea are going to be worth more in maybe 10 years' time than 5.5 billion, which I do believe, I think they'll go up and up and up, then there is something to be said about this. And this is why the 49ers have got Leeds United, because right now we're not as big as Chelsea. I know people think that we are. I don't think we are, personally. They've got 2 Champions Leagues, etc. But that's regardless of the point. And that's not a knock on Leeds United. We've been, because of poor ownership over the years, we've been in the abyss. 20, 30 years ago, of course we were bigger than them. But obviously, because of what's recently happened, it's made it more difficult for Leeds United to compete with Chelsea. People might not like that, but it's kind of the harsh truth of it. But look at the prospect of Leeds United. Look at the prospect. I think Leeds is the 5th biggest city in the UK. We are a club. There is a single city club, or a single club city. And that it's got to have massive potential. And you look at the history of the football club, how many league titles, etc. we've won. There is a path there for the 49ers to build on. And they understand that if they can grow this beast of a football club, which is Leeds United, the potential is astronomical. And this is a club that could be worth 2, 3, maybe even 4 billion in 10 years' time. And that's what the 49ers see with Leeds United. Look, I don't think, and I've never thought that these guys are there because they're Leeds United fans. They're not. They're here because they see the project of Leeds United, and they see that the business venture that this football club can turn into, and the financial powerhouse that this club can turn into because of the stature of the Leeds United brand. And they know that if they can get good performance on the pitch and get us back to where we should be, back competing in Europe, etc., and get us back to that level, then this is a football club that could be worth a hell of a lot of money. And their plan, as I said, is to constantly build us up. So when people always say the 49ers do not the cheap, I've always sort of disregarded that comment. It's not because I don't. People can entitle their own opinion and maybe interpret situations differently to me. That's absolutely fine. But if you look what they're trying to do, their whole point is invest, invest, invest. Make the team better, make the team better, make the team better. So the club becomes more valuable. So when we then go on open stage and they eventually go to sell Leeds United, they can sell us for a huge profit. That is their plan. But and people go, oh, yeah, but they're happy with relegation, they're naive, etc. No, I disagree with that. And if you look at sort of the PSR and what they've done in terms of PSR standpoint, I know people don't like this. They have spent the amount that they're allowed to spend every single season since they've been at the football club. That is what they've done. And they will want to spend as much money as possible. Not as I said, not because they're Leeds United fans maybe, but because of what this football club can bring them in a commercial standpoint in 10 years' time. Because the capital ventalists, what are they called? Who are trying to make money out of the football club. But truthfully, we've got to be on board with that at this moment in time for me, because in order for them to get what they want from this football club, and in order for them for the value of the club to be worth what they want, they have to put money into the football club, and the team has to be successful on the pitch. If we're not successful on the pitch, the fan base won't grow, the commercial value won't grow, nothing will happen. So they've got to make us a success on the pitch. So at this moment in time, our what we want from the football club and what the 49ers will want will definitely be something. We'll be on the same page, basically. That's what that is, and that's kind of where we're at. Gavin says Wolves already 1-0 down. Wow, doesn't surprise me, mate. B Quirky says so big. If we stay up with the lack of spending in January and potentially losing fringe players like Nonto, Tanaka, Pro, we should have a decent budget. We should, mate. And if you listen to sort of again what Jed York said, he just said there is going to be investment in the summer in Leeds United, and there will always be investment in Leeds United, and that's a killer line. But that is the truth. There's no reason for him not to do that, because if I had the money that they had, and even if I wasn't a Leeds United fan, which you guys obviously know that I am, but even if I wasn't, it's obvious what this team can, what this club can become as an enterprise, and how much money the club can be worth. It's so obvious. And if you look at the NFL teams and how much they're worth just ridiculous sums of money. And the reason there's so many Americans in Premier League at this moment is because they accept that they naturally accept that the Premier League is the best league in the world. It's the most watched league in the world, and they want to turn it and make it into a powerhouse of a broadcasting deal like they get in the NFL. That is what they're going for, because they know they've got the eyes on the game. They see the eyes on the game, and they see how much that could be worth. And that is the whole point, which is why so many clubs are owned by Americans. That is the whole point. But as I said, for us right now, truthfully, it's not a bad position to be in, because they will spend as much money as humanly possible to ensure that they are in the Premier League next season, and then they will go and go and go. That is the point. Arthur says Wolves are gone. Yes, they are. Aaron says, hello, Scott. Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you in the chat. Gavin says, are you sure in terms of thinking? But yeah, as I said, that is the plan for the 49ers. That has always been the plan for the 49ers. And truthfully, as I said, for me, when I've looked at what they've done and the body of work so far that they've come to the football club, I think a lot of the signs have been pretty good. I think that the hiring of Daniel Farke has been a good decision. I like how stable they are. I like the fact they don't talk a lot. I know we're talking about them talking today, but they don't truthfully talk a lot. They get on with the business. I like the fact that at times they make uncomfortable decisions that people don't like. I like all that, and I think it's good, and I think it's a positive. So yeah, I think we're in a good stead. I think we're in good stead. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the show there. Thanks everyone for watching, and think Arsenal do Spurs 4-2 Sunday. I think Arsenal win that game as well. Anyway, thanks all for watching as always. As I said, if you have just joined, I have been talking now for 17 minutes, so you're more than welcome to skip back, watch the rest of the show. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed the show as always. We'll see you tomorrow for some more Leeds United talk. But as I said, we have talked all about this for 17 minutes now, so you're more than welcome to tune back. And also, as I said, if you got to this point, you could drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As I said, I am a small channel, naturally, as all the channels are trying to grow. So if you could help me with that and help me try reach 2,000 or 1,900, first of all, that will be absolutely fantastic, guys. Anyway, I'll see you all later, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow to talk all about some more Leeds United news. See you later, everybody.